Good evening. It's News View. I'm Lee Sullivan. Thank you for allowing me in, visiting with Ron Hart. And you read it in the paper, you've heard it in the news, you've listened to the president, and I want to start it off with it. And Libya, the solution in the Mideast and the Northern Africa. And so what's the peace president doing, Ron?
I think he's going to, if this doesn't work, he's going to beat him over the head with his Nobel Peace Prize. The irony is not lost on anyone. It's an interesting situation. It's Operation Odyssey Dawn, which sounds more like a stripper than it does maybe a ride at Dollywood. But he's gone in there with NATO forces, and he rushed back from overseas. First he checked his NCAA brackets, then he decided to see about this war. He was afraid it was going to work out well, and the media was already starting to call it Hillary's war. They were putting a laurel on her head for doing this thing. And look, Gaddafi's not a hard guy to beat. I mean, he's just a clown over in the Mideast. So basically, they're afraid he's going to run away and not get credit for it, because he's, the Obama doctrine. It's basically, we're for this as long as it's good for us. Unless it doesn't work out, then we blame it on Bush, and unless that changes.
Can you imagine if George Bush had pulled that trigger?
Yeah, right now. Yeah, he was out of bullets. I mean, after Iraq and Afghanistan. But you're right. If he'd pulled that trigger, the media would be saying, he's a cowboy, he's out of control, he's committing forces, etc. But as a libertarian, I'm against all three wars. I think none of them will do us any good. But to be honest with you, what Obama's doing here, in my view, if you're going to do something, do the shock and awe part, blow up his good stuff. I mean, I think the strongest thing we could do is send a Tomahawk missile to his strategic reserve of Jerry curl, which he keeps. And you blow his Jerry curl up, and look, that's a moral blow. He's gone. I mean, he's done. But no.
Take the kink out of the stink.
Yeah, you can't do that. And then here's a guy, basically, first of all, nobody in Libya deserves to die. Except, of course, maybe his plastic surgeon. Maybe maybe put him down. But he's trying to paint Obama as a humanitarian effort in case the military thing doesn't work. So he's hedging his bets. He said in a speech this week, I'm avoiding mass graves. I want to get in there before mass graves.
I listened to that crap.
He doesn't make stuff up.
I listened to that crap.
You know where there were mass graves? The Kurds in northern Iraq.
Really? You want us to talk about genocide? I mean, and the things that we could have and should have and would have and didn't.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
That's just, listen.
Well, in his mind, he makes things up. Remember, he's going to not create jobs. He says he's going to create jobs. When he couldn't create jobs, he said he saved jobs. His program saved jobs. And he's saving people from these fictitious mass graves down the road. The guy's lost all civility and all sensibility in the White House. He's surrounded by sycophants that tell him he's great. They have this odd policy. And the truth is, his policy hasn't been any different than Bush. He continued the bailouts. He continued the Gitmo. I mean, he's made some noble proclamations which were impractical and unworkable. And he's basically continued the doctrine of Bush, but the media applauds it. Also, when he does it, it's okay. I mean, don't you get the feel that Bush is better president since he's left than he was when he was there? I mean, everything he's doing is the same thing Bush did.
Well, but see, I guess that is the ultimate irony, when someone different can do exactly the same thing and be applauded for that, while the other person is demonized.
Right, for it, exactly. Well, you know who demonized him the most? The young senator from Illinois, who said we don't need to be in these wars.
Right.
Who also voted against the cap, the spending cap. He said we were doing our children a disservice. Now he's been the most prolific spender in presidential history. So the guy's a complete fraud, a complete disingenuous person. Now, who knows that? You and me, your audience who pays attention, but the media, the Associated Press, the ABC, the NBC, they're an echo chamber. They're basically a PR office for the president. So everything he does is great, and he's focusing his entire efforts right now on the 2012 election. That's all he really cares about.
Is that? I mean, can't the media at some point in time? Don't they have some kind of? Mustn't they have some kind of gag reflex?
Yeah, well, they're anti-war, but they love this guy so much. I mean, the media does love this guy a lot. And they'll say the difference between he and Bush is that Bush sent in ground troops. But first of all, Secretary Gates said our vital interests are not at stake here. He said he'll meet the press this weekend. So our vital interests aren't at stake. Look, as a libertarian, my view is if they're coming after you and your vital interests are at stake and it's imminent danger, you act. You protect yourself. It wasn't the case in Afghanistan. It wasn't the case in Iraq. Iraq wasn't the one that bombed us on 9/11. And it's certainly not the case with Libya, this nut job in Libya. So the Hart Doctrine, which I'm going to develop over this weekend, says don't bomb a country that doesn't have potable water. These countries are like out of the Old Testament. They're old, archaic countries. And when you send a $1 million Tomahawk missile to blow up a $80 tent,
a tent, where we bet that's Afghanistan. I mean, let's blow them out of our caves. I mean, they've certainly reached the pinnacle of architectural height over there. And you can't do that. You cannot do that from the air. At some point in time, you got to put a boot on the ground if you're going to do that. And I'm telling you, I'm telling you, they're going to do it. Yep. They're going to do it.
No, they won't. He won't put troops in Libya, ground troops in Libya. I don't think he will. I think he can engage the war from the edge. I mean, I'm a big fan. If you're going to fight a war, do it with the drones. Control Al Qaeda. If they pull up anywhere,
well, he's not going to do anything. Ron, he's not going to run that kinky-headed guy off. He ain't going to run him off like that. He ain't going to do it.
He's working the back doors for diplomatic immunity somewhere. I mean, the value of New York City real estate just went up, or somewhere in South Africa. This guy's going. He's got $40 billion he's stolen from the people, right?
Really?
Our missiles can come in there, and they're heat-seeking missiles, as you know. They can blow up tanks, military bases, but they can't find his money. He's got cash stockpiles all over Libya that he pays his mercenaries with.
Right.
My suggestion is, if he wants to find the cash, 40-year-old buckhead divorcees. That's a special unit. You need to put. You talk about boots on the ground. I'm talking about stilettos on the ground in that town. It'll be
from Buckhead.
They will find an 80-year-old man's cash hoard. I can guarantee you that.
Ron Hart. We'll be right back. I am through with foreign purchases, so I will bet you a cold beer.
All right.
That in 3 months, Gaddafi will be right where he is right now.
I'll take the under. I think he's going to be gone. I don't think the White House.
Are you giving me odds on this?
No, I'm just taking.
Are you even up? You're just even up.
Even.
I mean, you're just even up.
One beer against the beer.
Gosh,
this is rhetorical.
I mean, how much faith have you got in your foreseeable future here?
I'm betting with a guy who has a fro and wears a Snuggie. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much faith to have in the guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you listen. But Ron, what about the multiplicity of the rest of these countries, Yemen and Bahrain, and I mean, what's the next one that we go in and say?
Where do you draw it? And where's the doctrine? Where is the doctrine here? I mean, look, you can't go into every country that George Clooney and people who have been in a movie with George Clooney have gone to for a photo op. I mean, every poor country in the world, you can't go in there and throw. You go to Darfur, or you go to Yemen. I think what you're doing here, and remember this, Reagan brought down the Berlin Wall and ended communism as we know it in the Soviet Union without firing a shot. This guy didn't have the gravitas to do that, right? You got to be patient, and democracy is on the march in the Mideast and Northern Africa. I think we let it play out. I don't think we take sides too early. And I think we try to save our capital and be involved where we need to be involved when our interests are threatened. Only when our interests are threatened.
Okay, I mean, would you and I have an argument that Iran poses the most significant danger to the free world that we know of?
Right. Well, they got nukes.
Right.
Well, this Gaddafi guy, we're picking on pea shooters over there.
Right.
I mean, these guys are nickel and dime thugs.
Right.
So we're beating up on these thugs.
Right.
Don't forget, we put Saddam Hussein out of power in a weekend. Our mistake was trying to take over the country, trying to control them.
That was the mistake. Well said.
So we got the strongest military in the world. This guy, Obama, he comes, all of a sudden he goes as pacifist president against all the wars, and all of a sudden he's Rambo, doing all these wars. And he comes back from Rio from a trip to take charge, reminds me of Blazing Saddles. It kind of has that kind of feel that it doesn't really.
What a
it's
great
more
show
comical.
that was,
It was
too.
a fine motion picture. It really was.
Okay, who's crazier, Charlie Sheen or Gaddafi?
I think Sheen probably is less effective.
He just doesn't have a country.
He doesn't have a country yet. He's going to go to Detroit. Maybe he'll do a coup in Detroit, take over that. He's going from the #1 show on television to doing stand-up routines in Detroit. Winning.
Right.
What sort of show?
And they're talking about bringing him back? Or
Yeah, I mean, money's money. I mean, here's a guy that's lot of hookers in the hotel rooms. He's been busted on cocaine, who beat up his wife. As soon as you say something negative about your producer, you're gone. I mean, that tells you don't speak poorly about the boss. But Gaddafi, I don't know if there's madness if there's method in his madness or not. I mean, the guy is controlling the country. He is worth $40 billion. He has 8 female bodyguards that are pretty hot. I mean, it's not a bad gig. Yeah, he's only got female bodyguards, and they're all very cute. He had a Ukrainian nurse for a long time. Was very much his companion for a number of years. And right now, as if things aren't bad enough for Gaddafi, his wife just filed for divorce. It's true.
Well, I mean, they blew up his tent, for
Yeah.
God's sakes, and they said it was a command post.
Usually it takes a divorce to do that.
I mean, they blew up his tent because they said they weren't trying to kill him.
Right.
It was a command post. This is the second time they've blown up his hacienda
Right.
without trying to kill him.
Yeah, well, Reagan shot a missile down his house and basically shut him up 15, 20 years. I mean, he's a coward. Look, this guy is not a formidable asset. He's a tin-horn guy. They know that. He's not a formidable guy. He's not a real dude. Now, Ahmadinejad in Iran, that's a real deal. They got nukes. They got a pretty big army, strong mullahs. Got a very idealistic country that's a theocracy that will fight you in a minute. And they know not to mess with them. You're right. That's the biggest problem we got over there. But I think the notion is like going to prison. First day in prison, if you whoop somebody's tail, I think Obama's trying to whoop Libya's tail to send a message to the rest of them that we will come in there. Keeps the showers more hygienic.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's clearly that's one of the reasons you got to beat somebody up, because you'll have to be their sweetie if you don't.
Yeah. Well, you could end up being a prison marriage counselor. That wouldn't be good. No, but I think that's what Obama did. I think he's using he's hiding behind NATO. As we just play a supportive role. We weren't the lead in this situation. It was NATO.
NATO.
And then the UN.
We are NATO.
Well, the UN, which wears powder blue helmets into war.
We're all of those things. We pay for them. We fund them. They're just little puppet things.
And Germany pulled out. Germany was, French. It's kind of funny how times changed since you fought wars. The French want to fight, and the Germans are pulling out.
Hey, listen, I got sucked into the French pullout, okay?
Yeah.
They decided after they got their tail beat and they left,
Right.
okay,
Americans
that
came in.
it wasn't a good thing.
Yeah, well,
so here comes I Like Ike.
Yeah, the French are coming in.
Ron Hart will be right back. Welcome back. It's News View. I'm visiting Ron Hart. Okay, let's just switch gears just a little bit. We should not necessarily too much, but you pay attention to religion. And the Pope comes out and says he doesn't blame the Jews for the death of Christ. Well, what is that?
Well, it tells you one thing. One, they're working through their inbox at a very rapid pace now. They hope to be to the Crusades pretty soon. They're going to apologize through all the centuries for things they've done. But the problem with that statement and the Pope not blaming the Jews for the death of Christ, what troubles me, if they didn't do it, if the Jews didn't do it, then the real killer's still out there somewhere.
Right.
They're going to have to look into that. Where do you come up with that? I think the Vatican, in its own way, is sweet and antiquated, but in its own way odd and kind of distant. They're working through these old tablets that monks did, and they're looking at things, and they're in this little world of their own, and somehow they think that that's relevant.
So had they infiltrated the Jews? I mean, were there a lot of Roman Catholics hid out as Jews when they crucified Christ?
No, they're just saying the Jews. I mean, the notion a lot of people say is that the Jews killed Christ, and that it was
a notion.
Yeah, exactly.
Notion.
But he was Jewish originally too, so I don't understand the logic. I mean,
my
It just shows you. It shows you what happens when religion gets too much.
I can't take it.
I think we need to do a cold case. What's that guy on TV that does the cold cases and go back and look at the crime scene and see actually who did that? When you get to killers.
Okay, here it is. The GOP is going after Obama to enforce the Defense of Marriage Act to make him enforce it. So is that our marriage or somebody else's?
Yeah, I wrote about a couple.
Marriage?
No, Defense of Marriage Act.
I don't want to come out of the
marriage,
closet
dude.
with you right
You're married.
right
No,
away.
no.
I mean,
Look,
we're both in touch with our feminine selves.
I'm comfortable with the notion that, if two dudes want to marry, here's the deal. The Republicans got elected with a landslide, with a mandate, not in mandates, but a mandate to lower taxes, lower the reach of government, less government, right? That was their mandate. First thing they do is go after this Bush-era defensive marriage, social issues, Defense of Marriage Act. Obama says he wasn't going to enforce it. How enforceable is it anyway? It's more of a theoretical endeavor. And why don't you spend your currency doing that? There's this thin line between governing and meddling, and I don't think they quite understand the difference. If you're going to have less government, you let people make their own decisions. A couple of gym teachers living together in Midtown, fixing up a house and skipping to work.
It's a danger to the world. It's just like the Vietnamese getting on their bicycles, pedaling over here and taking over the country.
The domino theory.
Yeah. I mean,
it's divisive.
The only reason you're not wearing a coned hat is, trust me, in 5 more days, I would have had that thing beat down.
Done it.
Yeah.
The gay issue is a tough one. The Episcopal Church.
There's nothing tough about it. Either you are or you aren't, and the law won't make you be one if you aren't one, and it won't make you be not one if you're not one.
The question is, do you spend all your currency chasing these people around the table, making life difficult for people who are born, in my view, born gay? The Episcopal Church has a huge split over it. You get gay priests. You get 2 forms of the Episcopal Church. They break off over this whole issue. Part of the more conservative part of the church didn't want gay priests. The more liberal part of the church wanted gay priests.
Every time I think about it, I wished I was a Catholic and I had been in the choir. And then I'd be retired right now, and everything would be okay, and I'd handle the emotional trauma. Ron Hart, we'll be right back. Welcome back. It's News View. I'm visiting with Ron Hart. And here it is, national news. Panama City Beach, which usually doesn't have a lot of trouble being national news during spring break. But how many times have you ever gone through the drive-in window, got to the end till you got to a point, looked and said you'd bought chicken McNuggets and you got a Big Mac in there and wanted to attack them? Well, thought takes action, and they call her a spring break girl from Montgomery.
Tanisha or something? Yeah, I saw. I'm sure everybody's seen the video. It's enchanting. She's very cute.
It is a nuclear attack.
It is. Forget about the no-fly zone over Libya. They need a no-fly zone over the Burger King counter.
Burger King, right.
Now, I just heard today that she's not 23. And that's not her name. That name is the name of her hairdresser. She lied about her name. She lied about her age. She's 30 years old, has kids. Shocker there. And she basically is in the customer service business in another place. And she said she felt like that she was going to teach them a lesson because she caught some bad customer service there. So.
Hey, listen, that sister was everywhere.
Yeah.
She was up on the counter. She was in charge of Booger King for a brief period of time.
4 minutes and 20 seconds, according to the video. Yeah, she was, look, she's a customer service specialist. She's trying to teach them a lesson because she lives in Montgomery. She's in the customer service business. She said she got, you go into Burger King, you pay $1.80 for a Junior Whopper. You expect quality service because you're coming out $1.80, right? You expect everything just to be the way you want it. But No, I think it's great. I mean, the Burger King place is kind of creepy to me anyway. I think their ads are creepy. I think they had it coming. You know, the Burger King and some of these ads, you know, you ever seen this creepy commercial where the Burger King wakes up in bed with this guy?
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's disgusting. But listen.
But no, but if you wake up in bed with a Burger King, you
this
just had it
this
his
is
way.
traumatic, emotional stuff here.
Right.
This is being violated to such an extent that you go park your car in a prescribed parking place,
Right.
go inside. I don't know if she brought the crap that she bought in there with her, but she just
Went
went
nuts.
north of Dallas.
Yeah, what's that news show a while back? I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. That's kind of what she was. I think she spoke for every American, and she did so in a bikini on top of the counter, which I thought was very.
30 years old.
She's 30. I found out that I actually listened on the way over, and they're going to get her not so much for her incident in Burger King, but for lying to officials. As you know, that can be the worst crime.
That
lying.
is the worst crime.
Yeah.
It was always the worst crime for me. I mean, if you murdered the guy, that was one thing. But if you lied about murdering the guy,
A lot worse. You got to set a tone.
That was a whole lot worse than that.
And if you lie about how many McNuggets are in an 8-pack and there's only 7, by gosh, you got the right to do that. I think.
Exactly.
Attack.
Attack.
Speaks for everyone in that bathing suit on that counter throwing.
I know.
She's going down the line.
Ron Hart. Those are my views. What are yours?